This is the final part of part 8. So, talking about perfection. Perfection generally carries with it the sense of the highest pitch of, or the extreme type of accomplishment, and perfection as such cannot become more perfect. But when the term perfection is used in terms of divinity, there are 3 types of perfection in the same state of Sulukiyat, of Baka Bila. The first type is known as Kamil, the perfect one. The second type is known as Akmal, the most perfect one. The third type is known as Mukamil, the supremely perfect one. There is absolutely no difference whatsoever in their continual and conscious experience of the eternal reality, but the degrees of comparison that are attached to the perfection are due to the difference in the function of the offices of perfection. Hence, due to the differences in function, different attributes are attached to each type of perfection. The Kamil can spontaneously give conscious experience of the realization of God to only one man and make only that man like unto him in the eternal experience of the reality. The Akmal can make many like unto him in experience, whereas the Mukamil can make not only any number, even all in the creation, like unto him in the experience of the eternal reality, but he can also spontaneously bestow on any number of transfiguration of their physical bodies, and even make their physique appear and live and experience like unto his own physical body in the gross world, together with giving the eternal conscious experience of reality. Baka Bila is the end of the second divine journey. In between the states of Fanafala and Baka Bila, at the divine junction, there is the state of Turiya Avasta. Turiya Avasta is that state where sometimes the super consciousness gives the experience of the I am God state, and where sometimes super consciousness gives the experience of the I am human state of normal consciousness. There's a footnote after the sentence, the Mukamil can make not only any number, even all in the creation. And here's the footnote. A Mukamil can make all creation God realized if he wishes. All creation means all human beings and everything that is in creation, from a particle of dust to an elephant. But a Mukamil will never wish to do so, because the carrying out of such a wish would mean the end of cosmic illusion, the whole creation. To put an end to cosmic illusion would amount to putting an end to the divine play, and to end the divine play would go against the very nature or characteristics of God in his original state, when he remains infinitely conscious and simultaneously infinitely unconscious. Doomslayer, Doom Scroll, all the dooms in the house. Sick. This state is experienced by those who are termed Majub Salik or Paramahansa, and who in this state of Turiya Avasta sometimes experience consciously as I am my own God, and sometimes experience consciously as I am my own creature. At the divine junction between the end of the first and the beginning of the second divine journey, the fluctuating divine experiences of divine and human are experienced alternately until the I am God state of Fanafala gradually becomes established in the state of Baka Bila, where the abiding in God state is established, and where man as God simultaneously, without the least effort, automatically undergoes the dual experience of God and man at one and the same time. As soon as the divine junction is crossed, the Majzubiat of Fanafala becomes established as Sulukiyat in Bakabala. The Majzub of Majzubiat could only consciously experience infinite knowledge and power while being drowned in infinite bliss. The Salik of Sulukiyat, however, not only consciously experiences but also consciously accumulates infinite knowledge, power, and bliss, although he does not use these infinite aspects for others as Kutubs and Kutubiyat do. Another footnote. Meher Baba was asked if Majzubs are utterly unconscious of all the spheres, gross, subtle, and mental, of everything except the I am God state, then how is it they react to the physical side of life, eating and drinking, showing preference to certain things, antipathy to others? Meher Baba replied, the Majzub may apparently like or dislike, ask or reject, seem happy or angry. It is an automatic reflex action of which he is unconscious, like the sound of snoring is to the fast asleep man emitting it, like the sleepwalker who is unconscious of his actions, however normal and varied they may be. The Majzub is oblivious to his body and surroundings and is conscious only to his divine state of I am God. The end of the second divine journey leads to the third divine journey, which is the state of Kutubiyat, where living the life of God is actually experienced by those who are termed Kutubs or Sadgurus or perfect masters. The state of Kutubiyat, which follows the Sulukiyat of Bakabala, is where man as God established in the life of God in Bakabala now begins to live the life of God in the state of Kutubiyat as Kutub or Sadguru. He now not only consciously experiences as in the state of Fanafala and consciously accumulates as in the state of Bakabala infinite knowledge, power, and bliss, but he uses those infinite aspects in the state of Kutubiyat for those who are still in illusion. Such a man-god of the state of Kutubiyat is called a perfect master who has not only become God and established himself in God, but lives the life of God as God's individual representative in illusion. The dual role of I am God and I am human, which was established in Bakabala, is now not only simultaneously experienced, but it is also lived through in the state of Kutubiyat. And the man-god, Kutub, Sadguru, or perfect master, now simultaneously lives the life of God and the life of man with all the strength of infinite knowledge, power, and bliss of the God state together with all of the weaknesses and sufferings of the man state. At the end of the third divine journey, the perfect master not only lives a dual role and displays strength and weaknesses simultaneously, but also simultaneously utilizes this display of infinite strength through infinite knowledge, power, and bliss, and infinite weakness through infinite suffering for those who are in ignorance and who still conceive the false, finite illusion to be infinite and real. In contrast to the state, in the state of Bakabala, God experiences his godhood constantly, simultaneously with the continual and constant experience of his manhood. And yet he cannot use the infinite knowledge, power, and bliss, and also cannot utilize the infinite weakness and suffering for those in ignorance, because God does not live the life of God in the state as in the state of Kutubiyat. It is very, very rare, and it is for only very, very few to begin and end their third divine journey in the Kutub or Sadguru state. In this state, man as God now lives the life of God. He now uses the infinite knowledge, power, and bliss that he experiences. He is that God and man, or man-God, who has brought down the one indivisible existence into the many. He is the man God who brought down independent reality into illusion and controls illusion from the divine office of his beyond state. The very life of this man God or perfect master is the Sahaj Samadhi. Such a perfect master is at one and the same time simultaneously in all the universes and in all the worlds, on all the levels and on all the planes, living the life of the one and the all. His life is that of living also on particular levels and on particular planes as every creature and as every individual of that certain level and of that particular plane. At the same time, together with living the life of God, he lives the life of man on this earth. Another footnote. In the words of Meher Baba, perfection does not belong to God as God, nor does it belong to man as man. The finite being who is conscious of his being finite is obviously short of perfection, but when he is conscious of his being one with the infinite, he is perfect. Thus we have perfection when the finite transcends its limits and realizes its infinity, or when the infinite gives up its supposed aloofness and becomes man. In both cases, the finite and the infinite do not stand outside each other. When there is a happy and conscious blending of the finite and the infinite, we have perfection. Hey Sky, you found me. Sorry I didn't put out a video or anything. I thought maybe if you were on you'd see. Alright. Basically, we've just been talking about perfection and how there's all these states after you reach the seventh plane of being like a perfect master. Some of them have pretty much all their power is in the God state, but they still live in a body, but it's just like this, their body is just kind of on autopilot. And then you have kind of the opposite of that, where you're kind of using God powers, but you're more in a human body. And then there's the top of the line is the perfect master, where you pretty much have like awareness of being everything at once, which sounds intense. So yeah, I'll keep going. In this state of Kutubiyat, it may be said that God overlaps Godhood, which means that the consciousness of God, after pervading everything, still remains infinite, unlimited, and unbounded in this beyond state of God, while remaining eternally conscious of the beyond state of God. Alright, yeah, you're pretty much caught up with that explanation, I think. The fourth divine journey pertains to the dropping of the Kutub's body, Sharir. Although there is more definitions that are also kind of confusing, because I kind of forget which is which as I'm reading, because I haven't not too familiar with them, but we'll figure that out eventually. But I mean, you can kind of figure it out from just the context of it. Even after dropping his body, the Kutub eternally remains consciously and indivisibly as God the Infinite, and the individual and indivisible state of I am God. Of the state, Fana Fala, which is the goal, is everlastingly experienced. That is, even after the body or the human form is dropped in the fourth divine journey, the experience of conscious, infinite, indivisible individuality is retained eternally as I am God, everything infinite and unbounded, one without a second. Similarly, God in the state of Bakabala, where the apparently dual role of consciousness of I am God and I am human is manifested, is naturally enacted until the cloak of illusion, knowingly and consciously donned, is dropped. That is, when the human form or the body is dropped, the experience of conscious infinite indivisible individuality is retained eternally as I am God, everything infinite and unbounded, one without a second. God is existence eternal, infinite, and all-pervading. Since God is eternally infinite existence, it follows that there are an infinite number of states of God, infinitely and eternally existing. But fundamentally, there are only two states of God, the original state and the final state. The original state is the beyond state of God, where eternally God is and consciousness is not. The final state is the beyond state of God, where consciousness is eternally of the God is state of the beyond state of God. The same existence. That kind of explains the meaning of life if you think about it, because it's like God was not conscious, but he was God still, and then he evolved his consciousness by creating this material world, this illusion, evolved his consciousness and then involved it back just so he could be conscious of himself. Hence the meaning of life. So I'm interpreting it that way. The same existence as God prevails eternally, whether it is as the beyond state of God or as the beyond state of God. I know, right? The only difference is one of consciousness. In the beyond state of God, the existence consciously realizes itself as existing eternally as the beyond state of God is. Therefore, the divine goal is to realize the I am God state, where existence consciously realizes itself as existing eternally as the beyond state of God is. This is the reality, and the conscious realization of the reality once gained is retained eternally. Invariably, it manifests itself in no other forms but in human forms of the earth, in different divine states of God, through different divine statuses of Majzubiat, of Turiya Avasta, or Fana Ma'albaka, of Sulukiyat, and of Kutubiyat. So those are all just varying levels of perfection, more or less, in the God state. And they're all ascended masters past the seventh plane. But they're just, I don't know, it's kind of like I'm seeing it as, different karate belts or something like that. So, all other intermediary states of God are illusory states, where the same eternal, infinite, all-pervading one, indivisible, formless existence as God, though not realized as the eternal reality, asserts through its very being in assuming forms of infinitely innumerable inanimate and animate things and creatures as lifeless and living states of God, while in the process of gaining full consciousness of the eternal reality of infinite existence. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. Adokad. Awesome name. All these intermediary, illusory states of God thrive in the illusion of cosmic creation through multifarious and diverse gross, subtle, and mental impressions of illusion. And though the entire cosmic creation is illusion, yet it serves the purpose of a divine incubator, where consciousness of the divine incubates, and where such incubation produces the maturity to realize the eternal reality after the consciousness is nurtured and progressively developed through multifarious, diverse, and finite impressions and experiences of the opposites of the gross, subtle, and mental forms and worlds of cosmic creation. In the illusory states of God, the eternal, formless, infinite God, while being impressed by his own cosmic creations, gains consciousness first of the gross forms and experiences the gross worlds. Gross means material or three-dimensional. Then of the subtle forms and experiences of the subtle worlds, then of the mental forms and experiences the mental worlds, and eventually attaining consciousness of his unlimited self, experiences his eternal state. Consequently, when God is conscious of his gross forms, he identifies himself with the gross bodies and finds himself a particular gross body according to the special impressions or beliefs of that gross body. This means the infinite, eternal, formless God finds himself as finite, mortal, and having gross form. The cause of this ignorance is but the impressions or sanskaras. So God, who is eternally in the beyond state of Paraptar, Parabrahma, or in the infinitude state of God is, in the beginning acquires ignorance through being impressed by the impressions rather than by acquiring knowledge of his reality. I think the impressions and sanskaras seem to be linked, this is just a thought, that they're kind of linked with your karma, whatever, like your karmic debt could potentially, I'm just making this up, but could be linked to what you believe, you know? It could be the same thing even, that your karmic debt is just literally what you believe to be reality. You know what I mean? I don't know. Hence, when God acquires a particular form, body, or sharir, according to particular impressions, he feels and experiences himself as that particular form, body, or sharir. God in his stone form experiences himself as stone, accordingly in consonance with the impressions and their consciousness. Ooh, thanks for the heart me. Hi Debbie, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for joining. God in his stone form experiences himself as stone. Accordingly, in consonance with impressions and their consciousness, God feels and experiences that he is metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal, or human being. Whatever be the type of the gross form and whatever be the shape of the form, the evolving consciousness of God tends God spontaneously to associate himself with that form, figure, and shape, which tends him to experience himself through impressions that he is that form, figure, and shape. So don't forget that your dog is God. Similarly, when God is conscious of the subtle body, the pran, then God experiences the subtle world and regards himself as the subtle body or pran. Likewise, God becomes conscious of the mental body, i.e. the mana or the mind, experiences the mental world and regards himself as the mental body or the mana or mind. It is only because of impressions that the infinite God, the oversoul, without form and infinite experiences, that he is veritably but a finite gross body in the gross sphere, or a subtle body in the subtle sphere, or a mental body in the mental sphere. God, while experiencing the gross world through gross forms, associates with and disassociates from innumerable gross forms. The association with and dissociation from gross forms are called birth and death, respectively. That's right, Debbie. It is because of impressions that the eternal, immortal, formless God, or the Oversoul, without births and deaths, has to experience births and deaths a number of times. While God has to experience these innumerable births and deaths because of impressions, he has not only to experience the gross world, which is finite and therefore false, but together with it, he has also to experience its happiness and misery, its virtue and vice. All forms, figures, and shapes, all worlds and planes, all births and deaths, all virtue and vice, all happiness and misery are experienced by God, who is eternal, formless, and infinite, are the outcome of impressioned consciousness. Since all impressions are but the outcome of the nothing that manifested as the nothingness, it means that whatever God experiences through his evolved consciousness in the gross, subtle, and mental worlds is the experience of the nothing, and as this nothing by nature is nothing, therefore all the experiences in the intermediary illusory states of God are nothing but literally illusion and as such false and finite. I secretly enjoy when the book mentions nothing. It's if you're just joining us, it's really talking about everything that ever existed, and they're calling it nothing because it's but a dream and made up only so that we could evolve our consciousness to consciously be conscious of ourselves, and ourselves are all one, and we are all God, according to this book. Only when the impressioned consciousness is freed from all impressions is liberation or mukti in human form attained as nirvana or fana, where only consciousness is and where all else of the nothing which was as nothingness vanishes forever. Only in the case of the one who retains the body for 3 to 4 days after nirvana does the liberated or the unimpressioned or impressionless consciousness invariably realize eternal godhood in the second stage of fana, and asserts itself as I am God without doubt. This is the nirvikalpa state of undoubtedly I am God, when literally the impressionless or unimpressioned consciousness linked with human form realizes I am God, I was God, and forevermore will remain God, as existence eternal and conscious. In this way man becomes God, and it is said that man is God realized, or that the Jiv Atma in Paramatma has become the Shiv Atma in Paramatma, the Oversoul. Yeah, boy. A couple of footnotes that I skipped over. Meher Baba explained, those who do not retain their bodies for 3 or 4 days, but drop their bodies immediately after nirvana, attain liberation, mukti. Time does not exist, another footnote, time does not exist for anyone who is in nirvana, or for the one who has attained liberation. The period mentioned, 3 to 4 days, holds meaning only for the understanding of those who are the gross conscious and are bound by time. That's pretty interesting. Not sure what it means. The eternal reality is that Paramatma, or the Oversoul, is Atma, or the soul, and this reality is realized only when the impressioned consciousness as Jiv Atma becomes the impressionless or unimpressed consciousness as Shiv Atma, merging in Paramatma to assert and realize the identity of Paramatma. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of music theory. When you get to a certain point in understanding music theory, you realize the scales, chords, and arpeggios are all one in the same thing. Those are like the only 3 things that exist in music. And when you get to a certain point, you really don't even see the difference between them. It's just a matter of how far you're hopping up and down within the scale or whatever. So that seems very reflective of this, is when you, and what I'm referring to is the Atma being the soul, realizes it is the Paramatma, which is the Oversoul, and that it's just one and the same thing. There's really no difference at all. All right. If in reality Atma is Paramatma, how then could any situation arise for Atma to merge in Paramatma? In order to classify this situation and understand that Paramatma is Atma in reality, we compare Paramatma with an infinite, limitless, and shoreless ocean. Therefore, Atma, which is Paramatma, can never be out of bounds or the limitless and shoreless ocean, i.e. Paramatma. Atma can never be out of Paramatma because Paramatma, which we have compared to the limitless and shoreless ocean, is infinite and unlimited. How could Atma come out of or have a place beyond the expanse of the limitless when Atma is Paramatma? Hence, Atma is in Paramatma too. Now, in order to understand that the Atma which is in Paramatma is in reality Paramatma itself, let us imagine that it is possible to separate or take one iota of the ocean out of the limitless expanse of the unlimited and shoreless ocean. It follows then that this iota of ocean, when in the limitless ocean, is ocean itself before separation, and was in the unlimited ocean not as an iota of the ocean, but as the ocean itself, because every iota of ocean, when not limited by the limitations of being an iota, is unlimited ocean itself. Following that? It is only when the iota of the ocean is separated from the unlimited ocean, or is taken out of the unlimited ocean as a drop, that the separated iota of the ocean is looked upon as the limited drop of the unlimited ocean. In other words, the finite, unlimited, and shoreless ocean now is made to look upon itself through the drop as merely the limited drop of that infinite, unlimited, and shoreless ocean. And in comparison to the infinite, unlimited, and shoreless ocean, this drop of ocean is most finite, most limited, and has now infinite limitations. Similarly, Atma. Hello, thank you for joining. Similarly, Atma, the soul, as compared to the drop of the infinite ocean, can never be out of any limitations of the limitless and infinite Paramatma, or Oversoul, as compared to the infinite, unlimited, and shoreless ocean. But just as the iota of ocean acquires its limitations as a drop through a bubble on the surface of the ocean, and just as this bubble bestows upon the iota of the ocean an apparent, separative, and limited existence apart from the infinite ocean, likewise Atma, which is not only in Paramatma, but which is Paramatma itself, apparently experiences and asserts separative existence from the infinite, unlimited Paramatma through the limitations of the bubble of impressions which bestow conscious ignorance, and with which Atma shrouds itself and experiences itself as limited and separate from Paramatma. And they're really driving this point home. Heck yeah, the ocean of love. Through these limitations, that's a quote from Meher Baba, I am the ocean of love. And then if you go to the Baba Center in Myrtle Beach, it's connected to the ocean. And when you get like to the dunes, there's this big, someone wrote it in shells, I am the ocean of love, all in seashells, really big. And then there's a gate right there and you can go out. And they've kept that up since like I was a little kid. 30 something years. Anyway, let's see. As soon as the bubble of impressions bursts on completion of total involution of consciousness and conscious ignorance, as impressioned consciousness, it is transformed into conscious knowledge as unimpressioned consciousness. The limited and the most finite experiences of the Atma vanish. Atma, liberated from apparent separative finite existence, automatically merges in or finds itself as one with and in Paramatma, eternally infinite, unlimited, and unbounded in the beyond state of God. And this is called Atma's union with Paramatma, or Allah. In this state of consciousness, Atma is now completely conscious of the beyond, unconscious Paratpar, Parabrahma state of God, which is the original state of God when it is said God is. In Sufi terms, God in the beyond state is termed Allah, and God in the beyond state is termed Wara ul Wara, or Gaib ul Gaib. And yeah, that's funny that it's termed Allah, which is a totally different religion, but I don't think it's the same thing, but I think it's probably connected one way or another. In human form, from the highest and the most exalted divine status of God is that of Kutubiyat, where the Kutub, or the Sadguru, or perfect master, not only consciously experiences infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss, and all goodness, and all that is infinite beauty, meaning glory, but he consciously uses these infinite aspects for those Jivatmas still undergoing the illusory states of God and illusion. That is funny that I guess once you reach the perfect state of God realization, you just come back and help other people to do it. But it was also saying that he has the power to just shatter the entire illusion for every speck of dust and make everything God realized if he wanted to. But he doesn't, because then it would just take away this whole journey. I know, right? I'm kind of ready for that now. But I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, that seems like, why don't you just do that? That seems chill. In this exalted divine state of Kutubiyat, not only man becomes God, but man lives the life of God too. To worship this man God is to worship God with infinite attributes. This highest divine status of living the life of God consciously in human form is attained very, very rarely by very, very few Shiv Atmas, after the unconscious Atmas pass through the process of evolution, reincarnation, and involution of consciousness as Jivatmas and attain nirvana, which is in some cases is immediately followed by Nirvikalpa Samadhi of super consciousness asserting as Shivatmas. At all times, in all ages, and at one and the same time, there are always on this earth 56 Shiv Atmas, or God-realized Atmas. Of these 56 Shiv Atmas, some remain in the state of Majzubiyat, some remain in the state of the divine junction in Turiya Avasta, known in Sufi terms as Fana Mal Abak Baka. A very few of them crossing the divine junction remain in the state of Sulukiyat, and only 5 of them are always there in the state of Kutubiyat, as long as all these retain human forms. So these are what I just read, or I'll tell you in just a second, are all, just to simplify that, these are all just different levels of perfection of God realization. So it's once you become God realized, they're saying that there's 56 people that are on like the first of 3 levels. Second doesn't really say, and then the third, there's only 5 perfect masters on the earth at one time, which I've heard of before. And in order to become God realized, you they each have to like meet you and kind of give you like a boost, kind of, so to say, or something. One of them, there's a story about how Meher Baba became God realized, and one of the perfect masters threw a rock and hit him in the third eye, and it awoken his godhood. I think that was Sai Baba, the last one. Oops, I've lost my place. Here we go. Alright. Thus, at all times and in all ages, There are always 5 kutubs, sadgurus or perfect masters living on the earth amongst humanity, wielding infinite aspects of ahadiyat, or of the arsh-i-Allah or Vidyan, of the Vidyan Bhumika, of the beyond state of God, in the form of infinite knowledge, power, and bliss for the progressive emancipation of all in the field of illusion. I did not get all of those. Oh, I forgot to tell you what I'm reading, Francie. Sorry. I did not get all those terms, by the way. This is called God Speaks by Meher Baba. He's said to have attained God realization and he's kind of a reincarnation of like the level of Christ and Buddha, and he kind of reaffirms all the different religions and different God realized people who have graced our planet. And he came not to start a religion or anything, but really just to awaken people. This is a Mastery and Servitude logo. It has like, that's the cross from Christianity, that's the Buddha wheel. You have like Islam, Judaism, that's like the Om symbol, and that's a torch. I think that's a sect of Christianity. I'm not completely sure what that is, to be honest. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading. God Speaks. Alright, according to the divine law, these 5 sadgurus or perfect masters at the end of every cycle precipitate the advent of the direct descent of God on earth in human male form. Hence, at the end of every cycle, when God manifests on earth in the form of man and reveals his divinity to mankind, he is recognized as the Avatar, the Messiah, the Prophet. The direct descent of God on earth as Avatar is the independent status of God when God directly becomes man, without undergoing or passing through the process of evolution, reincarnation, and involution of consciousness. What? I have to read that again. The direct descent of God on earth as Avatar is that independent status of God when God directly becomes man, without undergoing or passing through the process of evolution, reincarnation, and involution of consciousness. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, you've already involved your consciousness all the way, and then you have the ability to just come back as a human and to help other people with their awareness. And I mean, apparently there's like not much else to do except for chill in the infinite bliss that is ourselves. Yeah. Oh yeah, a footnote here. Fana Ulfana, the state of God becoming man, the direct descent of God on earth as Avatar. So that would explain Christ, Buddha, all the others. And the second definition, Baka Ubaka, is the state of God becoming God-man, God's knowing himself as Avatar. And the state of ordinary man is the state of God as man. Okay. Fundamentally, thank you for the likes, I appreciate it. Fundamentally, there is absolutely no difference in the experience of reality, whether the Shiv Atmas are in the divine status of Majzubiyat, Turyavasta, Sulukiyat, or Kutubiyat. Once the goal is attained, all Shiv Atmas in all divine statuses undoubtedly and consciously begin to enjoy forever and ever that divine heritage of infinite bliss, while spontaneously and continuously experiencing their own triune nature of infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. I love when it like verifies what I said like right after I say it. It's really kind of creeps me out sometimes because I was just explaining that and I said it. Yeah, Zamstein, thanks for being here. Glad you're getting something out of that. Let me get more comfortable. Okay. It's starting to hurt my neck. Alright. Where are we at here? Okay, we had all these footnotes. Did I read that part? No. However, the difference in their divine status is due not to their experience of their infinite triune nature, but to a difference in the scope of wielding infinite power after establishing themselves in the Vidyan Bhumika of infinite knowledge, or Sulukyat, and then living the life of man-god as Kutub exercises their infinite knowledge to wield infinite power while enjoying infinite bliss. So we have something to look forward to, you guys, at least. The difference between the divine status of a Kutub or Sadguru and the avatar of the age is that a Kutub, after having gone through the whole process of cosmic evolution, enters and lives the life of God as man-god, while the avatar does not have to go through the process of evolution at all, because the avatar is that highest status of God where God directly becomes man and lives on earth as God-man. And I just want to point something out that just popped into my head. There's only one goal there, and it's God realization. It's realization of ourselves. There's no other end of the path. There's no hell. The only worst thing that can ever happen to you is if you misuse your power on the fourth plane of involution and you get sent back to the beginning of the journey of evolution of consciousness, and then you just have to do it again, and that's really rare. So, I just want to kind of point that out. There's no other end result. There's nothing to fear. All is love. In living the life of God, both the Sadguru and the Avatar are equal in having the same experiences. Both are leading God's life, and also both are on every level and plane of life in illusion. Both are simultaneously on the level of the lowest to the highest. In spite of this, the most important and the only difference is that the Kutub acts on that level and the avatar becomes that on that level. That's right, man. Love alone is real. That's another Meher Baba quote. To make the point of acting and becoming clear, many and innumerable examples can be quoted, but for ordinary human understanding, let illness serve as an example. For instance, a Kutub or Sadguru cannot and will not fall ill, and when he appears to have fallen ill, it is just his acting of illness. When people actually see him ill, they do not see him ill, but in reality they see his illness perfectly enacted because he is the perfect master and perfection personified. He acts as if he were ill. On the other hand, when people see the avatar ill, he has actually fallen ill, and he has literally become ill. But though the avatar has actually become ill, he has at his back simultaneously infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. Alright, I'm lost now. I don't know what's going on. Let's keep reading. On every level, in every state, and in all planes simultaneously, a Sadguru behaves as the creature or thing of that level and state, and as a man of that plane, whereas the avatar becomes as the creature or the thing of that level and state, and as a man of the plane all at once. So yeah, avatar is like the full-blown experience of knowing everything at once, and the Sadguru is like, I think it means God's consciousness has gone into a body. Yeah, pretty much, more or less. And at one and the same time becoming and being one, and all on all levels, states, and in all planes, and beyond all levels, states, and all planes, the avatar is the only one infinitely capable of giving a universal push to all things, all creatures, and to all mankind at one and the same time, accelerating the maturity of consciousness. In reality, God is everything and is in everyone. The avatar of God is not only everything and in everyone, but he actually becomes everything and everyone. Hence, the fundamental and only difference between an avatar and a Sadguru is that on every level and on all planes, a Sadguru acts, whereas an avatar does not act but actually becomes that. In short, there are always, at all times and in all ages, 56 God-realized souls, or Shivatmas, in human form on the earth. It must be noted that all of the 56 God-realized ones may be called perfect ones, but all of these 56 perfect ones are not all perfect masters, although all 56 experience the same experience of the eternal reality, without the least difference of experience whatsoever. And although all the 56 are one in consciousness of the ultimate goal, reality, perfect in all respects and God realized, yet there is a difference in their function. Therefore, the term for the 56 God realized ones may be perfect ones, but not perfect masters, sadgurus, or kutubs. Out of the 56 perfect ones, or Shivatmas in human form, there are always, at all times, in all ages, 5 perfect masters, or Sadgurus, or Kutubs, and these 5 control the affairs of the whole universe. When the age is not of the avataric period, these 5 perfect masters conjointly look into the affairs of the universe, and the one from amongst the 5 perfect masters who is responsible for the control of all of the affairs of the whole universe is called by the Sufis Kutub-i-Irshad. But when the age of the avataric period, at the end of every cycle, footnote, all cycles of time and illusion end and begin after 700 to 1400 years, and there have been and will be millions and billions of such cycles in a cycle of cycles. Thus there is no end to illusion, which also remains illusion. What? I thought we were trying to end illusion. Come on, guys. Alright. But when the age is of the avataric period of the end of every cycle, the avatar, the independent reality, the avatar, ancient one, highest of the high, the independent reality, infinite consciousness of the beyond state of God, is made to manifest in illusion directly on the earth through a male human being. This manifestation of infinite consciousness of the beyond state of God through a male human form on earth is commonly called the direct descent of God on earth in human form. This descent of God on earth is generally known as the Avatar. Yep, whoops. I did not know that, actually. That's weird. Hence, it is obvious that when the age is of the avataric period, and when the avatar, or the reality of the God consciousness of the beyond state of God, is made to manifest into illusion on the earth, by giving this reality a human form, to be made presentable to the humanity of the world, this avatar, or this God-man, must necessarily be other than the 56 God-realized ones. What about Shiva? Shakti. What about Shakti? She's a female. I think some of the highest consciousness of certain religions are women, so I don't know about that. The then existing and functioning 5 perfect masters at the appropriate time of the avataric period individually and conjointly bring about the advent of the avatar, and exercising their infinite mercy and love for all in ignorance, living the illusory life in creation, use their infinite power and grace to precipitate this advent and make manifest the infinite reality of the eternal infinite God consciousness in the beyond state, onto this earth into illusion, and they bestow through their infinite power, knowledge, and bliss onto the reality a most suitable cloak of illusion in the shape of a human form, so that the divinity of the reality may be made most presentable in the world of illusion. Thus, when infinite reality, God, manifests on earth in the form of a man and reveals his divinity to mankind, he is recognized as the Avatar, the Messiah, the Prophet. God thus becomes man. In this manner, infinite God, age after age, through all cycles, wills through his infinite mercy to effect his presence amidst mankind by stooping down to human levels in human form, but his physical presence amidst mankind not being apprehended. He is looked upon as an ordinary man of the world, when, however, he asserts his divinity on earth by proclaiming himself the Avatar of the age. He is worshipped by some who accept him as God, and glorified by a few who know him as God on earth, but it invariably falls to the lot of the rest of humanity to condemn him while he is physically in their midst. I've always been extremely skeptical, and I feel that there could be, if God is in man form, then he could be susceptible to a few mistakes, but don't quote me on that. Thus it is that God, as man, proclaiming himself as the Avatar, suffers himself to the persecuted and tortured, to be humiliated and condemned by humanity, for whose sake his infinite love has made him stoop so low, in order that humanity, by the very act of condemning God's manifestation in the form of the Avatar, should, however indirectly, assert the existence of God in his infinite eternal state of reality. The Avatar is always one and the same, because God is always one and the same. Here's a footnote. Meher Baba was asked whether a perfect master, after leaving the body, ever comes back to earth. Does it ever take birth again? Baba replied, no, never. Only the Avatar takes a birth again and again. I'll read that sentence again. The Avatar is always one and the same, because God is always one and the same. The eternal, indivisible, infinite one who manifests himself in the form of man as the Avatar, as the Messiah, as the Prophet, as the Buddha, as the Ancient One, the highest of the high. This eternally one and the same Avatar is made to repeat his manifestation from time to time in different cycles, adopting different names and different human forms, in different places, to reveal truth in different garbs and different languages, in order to raise humanity from the pit of ignorance and help free it from the bondage of delusions. During the Avataric period, the one from amongst then living 5 perfect masters, who used to function as Kutub-i-Irshad, ceases to hold this divine office with the advent of the Avatar, and delivers his duty and charge of the sole responsibility for the affairs of the universe into the hands of the God-man as soon as he is able to assume his office as the Christ, the Avatar of the age, and remains himself as long as he is in a gross body, holding the same office of Kutub as the other four hold. Okay. In spite of the advent of the Avatar, there must be 56 God-realized ones in human body, and from amongst these 56 there must be the 5 perfect masters living on earth. When one from amongst these 5 perfect masters drops his physical body, the office is never left vacant. It is invariably filled by another living, God-realized one who has realized the eternal reality at the time. Hence, even when the Avatar is on earth, there are 56 God-realized ones, including the 5 perfect masters in human form, but the Avatar becomes the sole authority. Respect my authority. So yeah, I guess you can just skip this whole process after becoming God realized with nirvana. You don't need to like, you can just ascend past this without being part of it. Of the 56, it's not like everyone has to take a turn of being a perfect master or whatever. You can just skip straight to consciousness of self. So that is finally, oh, okay. Yeah, that is finally, oh no, there's one more page. Oh no, that's not. Nope, that is the end of that part, the part 8, which took me about 5 readings to complete. But there is a chart and there's a 2-page explanation on it. So I will show that chart right here. And we'll see if it's readable. Probably not. Alright. So we have God is reality and all else is illusion. We have arrows around the outside going both ways. It says everything. We have illusion being this bubble. It's kind of like a Venn diagram. We have reality right here. Hi, butterfly, welcome. Thanks you for the likes. So everything is separated into illusion and reality. Reality. Well, let's start with illusion. Oh, I have a puzzle. Let's do the puzzle. Yay. Okay. So we have these 3 dots here. We have the gross sphere, and which we have the gross body, which is 3D or material. This will be repetitive for some of you. The subtle sphere is right here, the energetic sphere, the sphere, and then the consciousness is a subtle body. And then the mental body, we have the blue one, is the mind. So the mental sphere and mind. And so through the... Okay, this kind of shows you how you kind of work through these different forms. So you have God as gross consciousness through man this way, subtle consciousness, mental consciousness, etc. This says God's most original unconscious state of beyond the beyond, right here. And then reality is split up into men-God and God-man. So God is conscious of everything except nothing, and then simultaneously conscious of everything including all or nothing, which I think is the most perfect state. And here it says, God is everything and all else is nothing. Alright, so... And then this little 2-page section just says Meher Baba's explanation of chart 7 facing this page. So here's the explanation of that. With the energy from the subtle, and then I'll stop reading after that. With the energy of the subtle and the illumination from the mental spheres, for trillions upon trillions of years in the past and in the future, the gross universe has been and will be forming and disintegrating into countless stars, suns, planets, worlds, moons, and meteors. Yet in fact there are no such things as time and space. Once the soul is freed from illusion, illusion does not merely cease to exist, but it is then found never to have existed at all. After a gradual evolution through the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom of the gross universe for a definite yet immeasurable period of millions, billions, and trillions of years, consciousness reaches perfection in man. Man, when then rightly out to be God-conscious, but does not become so because of the sanskaric bindings born of impressions of the illusory experiences gathered during the evolution of consciousness. Thus, man remains fully conscious only of the gross. Thank you. Before man's perfect, oh, thank you for the heart, me. Before man's perfect but gross consciousness can evolve into the reality, thanks for the awesome. Before man's perfect but gross consciousness can evolve into the reality of God consciousness, it has first to evolve into subtle consciousness and form the subtle into full mental consciousness. For that, the gross impressions have to turn into the subtle and form the subtle into the mental impressions, regaining, in degree, the faintness and fineness of earlier impressions as gathered in the vegetable and mineral forms, the fundamental difference being in consciousness. Unlike the definite course followed in the process of evolution, man as man can make use of his consciousness fully and freely. Therefore, the fully gross conscious man, according to the resultant tightening or loosening of his sanskaric bindings, can become fully subtle conscious and therefore fully mental conscious, sometimes after a few or sometimes after numerous human reincarnations between each of the two involutions of his consciousness. And if one happens to be blessed with divine love from a lover of God, or if one has the guiding hand of a perfect master, the emancipation from all bindings, however great and complicated they may be, is achieved much more easily and quickly. In exceptional cases, an instantaneous emancipation is also possible without involving a single reincarnation. However, in order to loosen the bindings through the opposite experiences of the duality of illusion, i.e., pain and pleasure, good and bad, man and woman, strong and weak, etc., on his own, man has to remain conscious of multifarious experiences for 84 lakhs of time through something like 50 crores, crores, of sleeps and deaths. Yet invariably, on account of the all-pervading grace of God, man becomes subtle and mental conscious, and is thus able to cut short more or less the stalemate of recurring physical births and deaths. Finally, by the grace of the God-man or the man-God, in far, far less than an instant's flash of time, man becomes fully conscious God and finds that time and space are born of his own eternity and infinitude, in which time and space have no existence at all. That's right. You gotta be blessed by a perfect master. Yeah. Yeah, this is what I'm about. I'm trying to stop reincarnating. It's so I don't know. It is what it is. There's a bunch of more footnotes here. Asked for further clarification, Eric B. Jesawala wrote in reply. Hey, I met that guy actually. The reference to 50 crores of sleeps and deaths is approximately what one soul has to undergo during the process of evolution of consciousness, of forms, and of reincarnation with the help of changes in the media, i.e. association with and dissociation from different forms of different species. 84 lakhs, yeah, you feel me? 84 lakhs of shakings or reincarnations are in human form, but 50 crores of sleeps and deaths include pre-human forms, associations with and dissociations from media and the experiences of their impressions. Man need not die more times than he can be born. Man is born once with the birth of mind, and man dies once with the annihilation of mind. As such, there is indeed no reincarnation. It is just a process of crores of sleeps and death for the mind that is born once and that dies once. Birth of mind involves the processes of evolution, reincarnation, and involution. Death of the mind is realization of the self. Wow. And that is it. There is a little quote for the next part that's coming up. We're at a pretty big spot. The culmination of this journey has been profound to experience. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing it. Heck yeah. A little quote from the editors. The 10 States of God, which follows, was written by Erich B. Jeswala under the direct supervision of Meher Baba, describing and interpreting an original diagram, the 10 States of God, devised by Meher Baba. And that is what we will do next time. This is the diagram that he was just talking about. It looks super complex. I wonder if I can figure out how to like take pictures and like put them up while I'm reading. That would be pretty sweet if I could just like get a screenshot or something, figure out how to do that. Anyway, I'll figure that out. We are more than halfway through the book now. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me on this journey. And I'm so glad you guys are here. Let's see who's left. Francine, Sky, and Butterfly, thank you so much. I am gonna end the live. Eternally on our way. That's right. Trying to figure out the truth of reality in this whack-a-mole world we live in. Love alone is real. Cheers. Alright, you guys. Good night. Thank you again. Be well. I'll be back in a day or two. Goodbye.